In 1922, an ancient tomb buried in black sand broke open, releasing the long, silent sigh of ages. From that opening, one by one, the souls who touched it became entangled in the shadows of a terrifying destiny. Amelia Whitaker stared at the ancient limestone slab, the faint outline of the golden mask just visible through the dust. The desert wind whispered over the dunes, carrying a scent of sand and something older, something restless. Beside her, Hassan al Masri adjusted his spectacles, his hands trembling as he brushed away centuries of grime. "Are you sure it's ready?" Amelia asked, voice low, the weight of the moment pressing on her throat. Hassan swallowed, his eyes flickering to the small brass key in his pocket. "The ministry gave us permission, Dr. Whitaker. Lord Carnarvon's team opened it last month. The world has been waiting for us." A sudden rustle came from the entrance of the burial chamber. Lieutenant James McAllister, his uniform still bearing the dust of the desert, stepped forward, his rifle slung over his shoulder. "Ladies, gentlemen," he said, a hint of sarcasm in his tone, "if the curse is real, I'm ready to meet it head on." Amelia forced a smile. "Then let's make history, Lieutenant." The heavy stone doors groaned open, revealing a cavern bathed in a golden glow. The walls were lined with hieroglyphs that seemed to pulse in the flickering torchlight. In the center, a gilded sarcophagus lay on a raised platform, its lid slightly ajar, as if inviting the world to peer inside. 3 days later, the first night after the tomb's opening, a scream shattered the quiet of the excavation camp. Evelyn Clarke, a young American journalist who had arrived to document the Pharaoh's curse for a sensational newspaper, burst into the mess tent, her hair wild, eyes wide with terror. "Amelia, James, you have to," she gasped, clutching a crumpled notebook. He's dead. Lord Carnarvon. He died in his sleep." "The doctor says it was a fever, but his skin, it was blue." James stood, his jaw tightening. "We've heard rumors. A fever, you say?" Evelyn shook her head, tears mixing with the dust on her cheeks. "He was fine. Then the night the tomb was opened, there was a flash of light. I saw shadows move across the walls. He swore he heard a voice chanting in a language he didn't understand." "And now?" She fell silent, staring at the empty space on the table where a glass of water had sat. Amelia rose slowly, her mind racing through the ancient texts she'd studied. "The ancient Egyptians believed the dead could protect their tombs," Amelia said, voice barely above a whisper. "They placed spells, curses, guardians. If someone disturbs the rest, the curse awakens." Hassan, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. "My father told me stories about the Khopesh of Kha Nef, a weapon forged to keep the dead's spirit bound. It was said to be hidden within the king's burial chamber, sealed with a lock that only the worthy could open." James crossed his arms. So you're saying there's a weapon in there that could, what, kill us? Not kill, Amelia replied, eyes narrowing. Protect. If the curse is real, it might be a defense mechanism, but we need to understand it before we become its victims. The next morning, Amelia, Hassan, James, and Evelyn descended back into the tomb, their torches casting long, wavering shadows. The air grew colder as they approached the sarcophagus. Amelia brushed away the lid's edge, revealing a golden statue of a falcon, its eyes set with tiny rubies that seemed to glow from within. "Look at this," Evelyn whispered, her recorder clicking. "The inscription." "He who dares to awaken the king shall be judged by the feather of Ma'at." James frowned. The feather of Ma'at? That's the scale of truth, right? The heart is weighed against it. Hassan's fingers traced the hieroglyphs. There is a hidden compartment behind this statue. My father once told me about a secret passage that leads to the Room of Whispers. He pressed a small stone panel, and with a soft click, a narrow doorway opened, revealing a dim corridor lined with more hieroglyphs. The group stepped inside, the torchlight flickering against the walls. As they moved forward, a faint, rhythmic thumping echoed, like a heartbeat. 3 days later, Amelia murmured, recalling her notes, the ancient scribes wrote that the curse would strike on the 3rd night after the tomb is opened, when the moon is hidden. She glanced up. The sky outside the tomb was indeed clouded, the moon invisible. A sudden gust blew out their torches, plunging them into darkness. In the silence, a low, resonant chant rose, reverberating off the stone. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Who dares disturb the king?" the chant demanded. James tightened his grip on his rifle, but the weapon felt useless against a sound. Amelia's heart pounded as she tried to focus on the ancient words she had practiced at university. "We come in peace," she called, her voice echoing. "We seek knowledge, not theft." The chanting grew louder, the walls vibrating. Suddenly, a slab of stone shifted, revealing a hidden alcove. Inside lay a small, ornate box made of ebony and inlaid with gold. On its lid, a single scarab beetle was carved, its wings spread wide. Hassan stepped forward, his hands shaking. "The Khopesh of Kha Nef," he whispered, "the weapon of the priest." Before he could finish, Evelyn lunged, snatching the box and thrusting it into her bag. "We need this for the story," she said, her eyes gleaming with a mix of fear and greed. Amelia's breath caught. "Evelyn, we don't know what that is. It could be the source of the curse." Evelyn turned, smirking. "Or it could be my ticket to fame. Imagine the headline, 'Journalist uncovers ancient weapon that defies death.'" James stepped between them, his voice stern. "Enough. We need to decide together." At that moment, the chanting peaked, and the floor beneath them trembled. A fissure opened, and from the darkness emerged a figure draped in black linen, its face obscured by a mask of gold. The figure raised a hand, and the air grew cold enough to see one's breath. "The king's spirit awakens," the figure intoned. "Those who disturb my rest shall pay the price." Amelia felt a cold hand brush her cheek. She turned, expecting to see a specter, but instead met Hassan's eyes. He was pale, his lips moving silently. A faint glow emanated from his throat, forming words in ancient script that floated in the air. "Amelia," the inscription read, "the curse is a test. Only those pure of heart may lift it." She stared at Hassan, confusion and fear battling within her. "Hassan, what?" Hassan lowered his head, tears streaming down his cheeks. "My family has guarded this tomb for generations. My grandfather told me the secret. The curse is not a punishment, but a protection. It awakens when the tomb is opened, seeking a champion to bear the burden of the king's legacy. If the champion fails, the curse spreads." James tightened his grip on his rifle, eyes darting. "So we need a champion? Who?" A low, guttural laugh echoed, and the golden mask of Tutankhamun, suspended above the sarcophagus, seemed to pulse. The mask's eyes glowed with an eerie green light. "The champion must be willing to sacrifice," the voice of the mask said, resonating in their minds. "Only by offering one's blood can the curse be sealed forever." All eyes turned to Amelia. She felt the weight of centuries pressing upon her. Before she could answer, a sudden roar erupted outside the tomb. The entrance burst open, and a group of soldiers in British khaki uniforms stormed in, led by Colonel Edward Hargrave, a stern man with a scar across his cheek. "Stand down," Hargrave shouted. "We've received orders to secure the site. No one leaves until we have the artifact." He gestured to his men, who seized Evelyn's bag, pulling the ebony box from her grasp. Evelyn screamed, trying to protect it, but James pushed him aside, pulling his rifle and pointing it at the colonel. "Hargrave, you don't understand. This is not a mere relic. It's a weapon that can kill us all." Hargrave's eyes narrowed. "We will take it to London. The world will marvel at the find. The curse is a myth." A sudden, deafening crack split the air. The stone walls of the tomb cracked, and a blinding light poured from the fissure where the scarab box lay. The golden mask shattered, sending shards of gold spiraling like meteors. A wave of cold swept through, extinguishing torches and plunging the chamber into darkness. A scream rose from the depths, echoing through the stone. Then silence. When the light faded, the group found themselves standing in a collapsed chamber. Dust hung in the air, and the ancient sarcophagus lay cracked open, its interior exposed. The golden statue of the falcon was shattered, its rubies scattered. Amid the ruin, a single, intact scarab beetle lay on the floor, its wings still shimmering. Amelia knelt, picking up the beetle. It's still alive," she whispered. Hassan lifted his head, his eyes filled with tears. "The curse!" It was never a curse. It was a test of worthiness. Those who sought power for themselves were doomed. Those who embraced sacrifice, they become guardians. James looked at the colonel, whose face was ashen. "What do we do now?" Hargrave lowered his weapon, his voice trembling. We must seal this place. The world cannot know what we've seen. The curse must remain a legend." Evelyn, clutching her recorder, stared at the scarab. "But the story, the world will want to know." Amelia placed the beetle on the shattered sarcophagus, and as she did, the stone seemed to pulse, sealing the fissure, the cracks knitting themselves together. A low hum resonated, and a warm glow enveloped the tomb, as if the ancient spirits were breathing a sigh of relief. The scarab began to glow brighter, then, in a flash, dissolved into a fine dust that rose and settled into the walls, becoming part of the ancient hieroglyphs once more. The group stood, breathless. The air felt lighter, the oppressive weight lifted. Outside, the desert wind howled, but the sky cleared, revealing a pale moon that seemed to watch over them. James lowered his rifle, his voice hushed. "We survived. We're the ones who carried the secret." Hassan bowed his head. "My family's duty is fulfilled." The king's spirit rests, and the curse is broken. But we must keep this secret, for the world is not ready. Evelyn closed her recorder, a soft click echoing. She looked at Amelia, a tear rolling down her cheek. "I came for a story. I think I found something far greater, a truth that must stay hidden." Amelia placed a hand on Evelyn's shoulder. "The greatest stories are the ones we never tell." Hargrave turned to his men, ordering the camp to be dismantled. "Pack up. We leave at dawn. No one talks about this." Not a word. The group moved out of the tomb, stepping into the cool night air. The desert stretched endlessly, the stars glittering above. As they walked, Amelia felt a strange sensation, as if a faint whisper brushed her ear. "Remember," a distant voice seemed to say, "the past is a guardian, not a prison." She smiled, feeling the weight of history settle within her. The curse had been a myth, a legend, but the truth they uncovered would live on in the silence of the sands, a secret kept by those who dared to open the tomb and survived. Months later, in a modest London study, Amelia penned a letter to a close friend, never sending it. She wrote of the scarab, the voices, the sacrifice, and the promise to protect the past. She sealed the letter in an envelope, placed it in a locked drawer, and turned off the lamp. In the quiet of the night, The wind outside rattled the shutters, and a soft, ancient chant drifted through the walls, faint as a memory. The Pharaoh's curse remained a mystery to the world, but for those who had faced it, the truth was a burden they carried with quiet dignity, knowing that some mysteries are meant to stay buried, not for fear, but out of reverence.